This guy is one of the fiercest competitors on the table, so respected by his peers off it. What a career in poker. Oldest member of the Hendon mob. Had much to do with the rise of late night poker in the UK. The first player in the World Series of Poker history to make 3 consecutive final tables. And he finally got his bracelet in 2013, taking down event number 49 to one of the most thunderous rails in poker history, if not the most thunderous. He's one of the best, folks. Barny Boatman. Thanks for joining us, Barny. This is a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you. What a build-up. Respect it, Derek. Who have you been talking to?
No, you've got the respect of your peers, that's for sure. Listen, we saw Jason Mercier this past World Series make 3 straight final tables. He won 2 of the events. They were all 10K buy-ins. The poker world was talking about him nonstop. You were the first one to accomplish that back in, what was it, 2002?
No, I don't think you can really compare what I did then with Jason's achievement, which is absolutely extraordinary what he's done. I mean, it was a big deal at the time, certainly for me. I mean, Ross and I went out, we hardly played any World Series events, and that was back in the day when the fields were, a couple of hundred or whatever, I don't know, but making back-to-back finals was possible. Events ran over 2 days. So it was a big deal, but the fields they have now and the level of competition now is a whole different ballgame.
Well, it must have brought back memories for you, though, seeing Jason do that. And let's not sell yourself short, because it was almost 4 final tables, wasn't it?
It was. I actually bubbled the 4th one, which was a PLO. I mean, none of the 4, if you include that one, none of them were actually no limit hold'ems. In fact, there was two hold'ems, but neither no limit. And yeah, and then I went off to LA and just came back to the main event, so I couldn't hang about. So I managed to actually hang on to the money that I won, and that's probably the biggest achievement of all.
Has that been a problem for you over the years? You make a big score and then you find ways to spend it quickly?
No, because you have to get to the first part first. I mean, no. I would say that my biggest achievement in poker is survival, really. I mean, I've been around quite a while. I did a lot of other things before I played poker, so I kind of knew the value of money and how scary hard work is. So when I do get a result, I mean, it's not that I don't throw it around. It's not that I don't get presents for friends and family and things like that, but I don't go straight on the craps table or... In fact, I don't even know how to play craps.
You've been around a long time, as you mentioned. You've done many jobs. I've done some research on you. You've lived in several different countries. What perspective have you brought to the game from, your upbringing, hanging around with the Hendon mob, your brother Ross? What's going on there? What's your perspective on poker and life in general?
Whoa, well, let me see now. What a huge question. I mean, I think that having been doing other things for quite a long time before I got into poker, I value other things about people and about myself other than, winning an achievement. But at the same time, I also value what a big deal it is and how fortunate I am to get the chances that I get. It's not automatic. It doesn't happen to most people. But I don't know. I mean, that's just a long conversation.
Let me ask you this then, Barny. You're in a tournament. You think you're playing well, and you get it in real good, 4-1 favorite, and you have a bad beat. Are you able to separate the bad beat in poker from life kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. And I think that most people who play a lot would say what I'm going to say here, which is, I may even have terminology for it now. They talk about being results orientated. I mean, when I walk away shaking my head and have trouble getting over it, it's if I think I've made a mistake. If the cards run out in a certain way, then that's how the deck was set out, and that was what was going to happen. And you have to always remember that you always had a bit of luck along the way. I mean, I was just in the final. The first thing I've really done since the World Series, pretty much this year. I went up to Nottingham to play in the Devilfish Cup, which was a special event in memory of Dave Williott, and they raised a lot of money for a cancer charity in the course of that, which was great. And I was in the final, and the very first hand in the final, literally the first hand, I finished up making a nut flush against a guy who dropped a set and doubled up. And then, 3 hours later or something, I got it in with ace queen against ace 7, and the guy hit a 7 on the river. And people were saying to me, "Oh, you're so unlucky. That was brutal." And the rest of it. And I was like, "Didn't you see the hand like 3 hours ago where the guy had a set?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You always forget. You know, it doesn't. I don't know if it evens out exactly, because sometimes, you know, it felt like me for years that I was losing important ones. You have to keep it in perspective, and we're all very lucky to be playing this game.
Well, you've had many years since late night poker to think about the impact of that show. You mentioned Dave Ouliot. I was going to ask you this later in the interview, but I might as well bring it up now. He passed away. He was a big part of late night poker. Podrick Parkinson was as well. What impact did that show have over in England and right across the UK? I mean, that was a big show for you guys, wasn't it?
I think it's impossible to exaggerate the impact that had. I mean, there were a handful of us who kind of already felt that poker was going to be a thing, you know, culturally and all the rest of it. But it wasn't a huge part of culture over here like it is in the USA and Canada. And late night poker changed all that almost overnight, along with the internet, obviously. But it was a massive thing. It was quite a visionary. They were the first people to do under the table cameras and all that, and it really gave a chance for people to come into the game and find out about it.
Well, you were a big part of that. You played, you also commentated. I'm sure you helped organize and bring some of the big names in. Dave Ouliot was one of the biggest names in poker. I met the guy twice. I met him at the World Heads Up Championship in Barcelona in 2007, and then at the EPT London in 2013 maybe, at the Hotel Metropole. The guy is quite an entertainer, and I'll tell you a little story. The guy who beat me in Barcelona in the heads-up competition, he played Devilfish the second round. So I went over to rail the guy who beat me. And he was talking to the crowd, Devilfish was, and I shouted out, "You're in trouble, Devilfish. That guy beat me. He's got you, dead to rights." And he looked at me out loud and said, "Well, that's how fucking stupid you are." The whole crowd laughed. It was very funny. I mean, I really liked the guy. The one thing I didn't really like about him was I did see him muck cards right into the dealer's chest a couple of times, very unsportsmanlike. But away from the table, on the table, the guy is super entertaining.
Oh yeah, it's true. I mean, he had that thing. He wore his heart on the sleeve, and he did that thing of blaming dealers sometimes, which no one likes to see. But he was very entertaining, and as you discovered, very, very fast. Nobody had a faster mind. You know, if he'd had an education, he would have been dangerous. I tell you, he was a very clever man and a great player, and really a one-man Hall of Fame. I mean, he invented poker in Europe and the UK, and it just wouldn't have happened nearly as big or nearly as fast without him. So those of us like me who are quite very friendly with him, and everybody else in poker, in the UK, we all know he was.
Yeah, we were at an after party in London as well for Poker Stars, and one of the big name poker pros, I won't mention his name, got in a bit of trouble with the bouncers, and the first one there to solve the problem was Devilfish. It was really interesting to meet him. It was a real thrill. And quite a player, man. Destined for the Hall of Fame, indeed. You finished 16th in the main event, man. That was the year of Chris Ferguson, and the year James McManus came 5th. It was the basis for his all-time great book, Positively Fifth Street. You were prominently featured in that. He told me that he took it all for granted back then. He figured, hey, 5th, this is easy. This is going to happen all the time for me. And he found out the hard way that poker is a little bit more difficult than that. What was that year like for you? That must have been very exciting because you got real close.
Yes, it was. It was only my second time playing the main event, and it was only my third World Series event of any kind, actually. The previous year I'd come along, won a satellite, played the main event, ended up getting knocked out by a guy from my local casino in London. That was a waste of time. Yeah, you had no conceptions. I mean, I knew it was a big deal, but like you say, that Jim said, you didn't know how hard it was going to be to get in those positions. And I guess I played with a lot of freedom. I played my game. I was too stupid to be overawed, but I didn't know who all these people were. I knocked Phil Hellmuth out. I was on the same table as Carlos Mortensen, who had won yet. I was chip leader going into the money. The bookies had me as favourite on that when there was 45 of us left on that day or whatever, and I finished up making a huge bluff against Hassan Habib, which is probably the one that in poker that I'll probably never get over. And it was very, very exciting.
I'll tell you what. One of the problems I have in poker is making that huge bluff, because I always got this lingering thought in the back of my mind: what if he calls?
Well, I mean, yeah, you have to know what you represent, and you have to pick your moments and all the rest of it, and balance your range and all this stuff, So, but at the end of the day, you have to be prepared to fire the bullet when it needs to be fired.
You finished 16th back in 2000. This year, another British guy, William Kassouf, finished 17th. What did you make of the splash he made at the World Series of Poker with his speech play and all the talk and all that stuff? What did you think?
Okay, now I start. I didn't actually see whatever channel you need to see the coverage, but I've seen enough clips on YouTube, and I've also played with Will enough to have a view about all of this. First of all, he means absolutely no harm to anybody. There's no bad in him whatsoever. I think that the way that he got vilified and the reaction to him was just outrageous and absurd. I also think he's a good player, but I don't think his quote unquote play is a really part of his personally. I think that he gives away a lot of information more than he gets by doing it. Really, the kind of speech play that he does, it might as well just be the sound of a drill. There are plenty of people at the table who do different things that are annoying and unsettling, all the rest of it. But somebody actually says to him, I think when he's in the pot and he's jabbering away, if they have quiet so that he can think, I think he will. I think you're entitled to have a bit of peace and quiet when you're making a big decision. And if somebody keeps talking, and won't stop, then I think that's a problem and that needs to be dealt with, because, that's not poker. But it was clear from the bits I saw that it wasn't handled well. It was escalated in a way that was unnecessary. Rulings were made sometimes. When I saw one hand where he had Bob dreams and he was thinking and talking, the other guy had moved in and he was having a little think about what to do. And the way he was treated during that hand, I mean, obviously there was a context that I didn't see where he'd obviously been talking the whole time. But first of all, there was a ruling made that, one player, one hand, that didn't make any sense. Then everyone was going on at him and he was trying to make his decision. So he was the one that was being bothered. And then they put him on the clock when he hadn't really had a chance to think. So, I just think, on the one hand, it's not really speech play what he does. It's kind of annoying and people should be prepared to cook with people and all the rest of it. But on the other hand, I think the way he was lynched was just seemed a bit ridiculous to me. And that check your privilege line, please.
I thought it was bad too, because I'm a talker at the table. I like the mouth, I like Hellmuth, I like the entertainment value in poker, and I thought he was very entertaining. We had him on the show. There's no malice involved, and it seemed like a couple of players got on him because they were getting frustrated, and then it was like mob mentality, and then Jack Effel was in a tough spot. I mean, I thought he was treated very badly, and then when those players would not shake his hand after that massive cooler, I mean, that wasn't right.
No excuse for that whatsoever. I mean, that's just so petulant and rude and unfair, especially to someone like him who's in that position for the first and quite possibly the last time in his life, who was really, really enjoying himself, who was playing the same game he always plays, being himself, even if he might irritate you at times or whatever. You would have to do something really extreme to not want to shake their hand at the end when they get knocked out. And I just thought that was so classless. And those that didn't shake his hand, I'm sure they're embarrassed about it now.
Yeah, I think in poker you have to have fun. I'd rather have 8 William Kassoufs at the table than 8 guys with hoodies and headphones and looking at their iPad all day.
Yeah, but I've got to say, on the other hand, when you're playing in that tournament, you're not there to entertain other people. You're not being paid by ESPN to be a comedian or whatever. You're there. You put up your own money. This might be your 20th attempt to do something like this, and you're in this position, and you want to sit there and you want to focus. You've got zero responsibility to entertain. It's up to the people making the show to edit it, to choose the right hands, to do the right commentary, and if there is a good bit of speech, okay, to include it, to get some interviews, to get some backstory, to make an entertaining show. And if you can't World Series of Poker, you shouldn't be making television. But I mean, it's not up to the players to do a song and dance routine, and it's not up to the players to accept that when it's going on because it's entertaining.
Well, a very interesting main event. Key win, of course, wins the whole thing. Barney, you've made a lot of money in poker, in the neighborhood of $3 million. You've had great success. And finally...
If I had $3 million, I wouldn't be living in the neighborhood I'm in, I can tell you.
2013, it was really the crowning achievement. You win your bracelet. And talk about a rail. I mean, that was absolutely exciting. They were loud, they were vocal, they were all on your side. That must have been one of the thrills of your life.
It was. was, I'd always thought probably up to that day that all brilliant things that happened to me or didn't happen to me, the highs and the lows, very few of them were really directly connected to poker, I think, until that day. And that was a very, very special day that would live with me forever. And for exactly the reason that you say, more than anything, because everybody was there. My brother was there, my friend Sin was there, who I was travelling around with a lot of the time, and all those players, all those really great UK poker players who I respect and admire, had taken the time to come and rail me and join in and make the atmosphere that really, really helped me at home. They were being very fun, in the way that pretty much only a rail can be. And I was just made me so relaxed, and that helped me play my game, I think. So it was wonderful, and I had no idea what a big deal it would be to win a bracelet as well. Because I've been going there for a minute, as they say, and I kind of had felt that probably my biggest chances, to get a World Series bracelet had gone by. You always think you've got to, it could happen. Now I believe it can happen. I believe it can happen to me, and I've kind of renewed energy and appetite for it. So it's it changed me as a player as well. I wouldn't say exactly confidence, because I've always been stupid enough to be confident in my game, despite all evidence to the contrary. But it gave me a kind of, like I say, a belief that, I was someone that was allowed to happen to.
You mentioned you thought the bracelet opportunities had passed you by. With the field sizes so large these days, I'm wondering how many players of your age, started back when you did, have that same thought that, hey, I missed my chance. I mean, the field sizes back then were smaller, and now they're just massive.
Well, I mean, if you're counting bracelets thing, then obviously, you might look back and think, oh, if only I was going over there, But the game's all about adjusting to what's there, and what we didn't have back in those days was the opportunity to make huge, life-changing sums of money. If you in a tournament, take you 2 days to win it, and you might get sort of £8,552 for winning it, and that was absolutely massive. And you went out and bought a new car, and you couldn't believe how rich you were. The idea that you could go every day somewhere, there's a chance to win $1 million. That was, wow, what the hell? What happened? How did that?
Yeah, the game has certainly exploded. Your win in 2013 was worth more than $500,000. Where do you keep the bracelet now? Is it on display somewhere?
It's on top of my fridge in the box, actually. It was in my sock drawer for quite a lot. I got another one, which I gave to a friend. I promised this friend of mine that if I want a bracelet when I went to Berlin last year for the World Series of Europe, that she could have it. And blow me if I didn't go and win one. I didn't mean it. I didn't think I'd really win one. So yeah, one on top of my fridge and one up in the north of England.
Well, I didn't realize that, Barney. You got a bracelet from the World Series of Poker Europe?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's obviously not nearly such as the other one, but it was a PLO. It was nice. I was very glad to get a PLO one, because I love playing PLO tournaments, but I don't get that much opportunity to play them. But yeah, I'm a any mug can win 2 bracelets.
There you go, man. Congratulations. I did not realize that, and I feel bad for not knowing that. Wow. Well, speaking of your background in poker, a couple of questions about the Hendon Mob. The 4 of you, your brother, Ram Viswani, Joe Beavers. You guys started out going from, game to game, looking for juicy action back in the day?
We were playing in Spielers, private games in London, and then maybe to go to Ireland for the Irish Open, or across to Vienna or whatever. So we were travelling everywhere you went. You would see the same bunch of people. There'd be a Dublin crew, there'd be a Liverpool crew, whatever, and we were the Hendon Mob. We were the group, we were good from the north of London. We used to play in the same couple of games. People called us the Hendon Mob. Yeah, we were like a little gang back then.
We talked about, this will be my last question. We talked about Devilfish before. We see the Hall of Fame inductions this year. Todd Brunson, and who was the other guy? Carlos Mortensen.
Carlos Mortensen, very well deserved.
Do you have your sights on the Hall of Fame, and do you think the Hall of Fame is American-centric?
Well, I mean, I did get put up for a European award, which you only have to be alive to be put up for. So I qualified for that. But no, I don't think that I would expect to be mentioned as possible Hall of Famer. I'm more of a kind of a footnote. But I mean, I think in terms of UK poker, European poker, the head of the mob played an important role. I'm very, very glad. It did certainly feel, and when Dave Williott didn't get it last year, it kind of felt like it was it was more of an American thing, in much the same way that the Oscars is more of a white thing. Nobody necessarily means anything bad by it, but I don't know how important the Hall of Fame is. I guess it's important because we say it is, because we talk about it. But I mean, we all know, for example, over here that Dave Williott, how important he was and is. I know that it would have got to him, and it still would mean a lot. It would mean a lot to him to get that recognition and reason for his family. I'd love to see it happen. But for us to know how important he was, it doesn't need to happen.
Right. Well said. Okay, and lastly, I know you still play a lot. Obviously, you travel around quite a bit. But I know you spend a lot of time at the El Sadi Casino Resort in Marrakesh. Is that correct?
That's actually my favourite place.
The Es Sadi. The Es Sadi
in Marrakesh. They have festivals all through the year. In fact, I'm probably going to go in January for a World Series circuit event. And I can see very mixed ability fields there. It's a very good opportunity to get a result. It's one of the nicest you could ever hope to stay. It's like if you want to combine like a holiday with playing poker, which is kind of what I'm seeing out these days. I'm not playing that much, but I'm only really going to places that I want to go. It's just like a really, really lovely resort. The weather's always great. The food's great. Why wouldn't you go there? So, I'm surprised that more people don't travel there.
Well, Barny Boatman, this has been a real pleasure, man. Thank you so much. You've had a fantastic career in poker. I'm a big fan, and I really hope, again, you get your third bracelet. Why not this summer?
Well, I'm going to try. I'm really going to try. Thanks very much. It's great to talk to you.